So yesterday was a pretty big day for Duel Links with a brand new selection box and the structure deck. I went in a little bit on the selection box. I got my Flare Metal Dragon, but today we have the Supreme King unlocked. Finally, DD Castle has given us the 29th floor, and I've done pretty much that. I've not done the special kind of floors, but it took me about 25 minutes to do, which is not very long at all, but I did manage to end up coming out with everything in the event so far. I don't think I'm going to support the structure deck because it's a bit of a cash grab, honestly. But we have Supreme King, and his level rewards are we know we were getting, right? But we didn't know the quantities, and they're not the best. So we have his starter deck, which is straightforward enough. We have a 4th copy of Oversoul, so if you did miss it from the bonus campaign, you can now get a copy, which is great, right? For hero players, that's pretty cool. We get some fusion subs, we get a Neos, a Necroshade, a Wild Heart, which makes sense because he did use this, right? We are getting a card with this card in it, so it does make sense. But we have his brand new card, Avian Alternate Art, which is, you know, fair enough, pretty cool, kind of expected it. But then we have Visago the Destroyer, which we have had in, like, copious amounts of character events, right? And so I don't think we need another copy. I was expecting, honestly, them to meme it up, put Memory Crusher in for a 3rd time or a 4th time in a character, but Visago, and it's a fusion sub as well that we just got in the starter deck, right? We got a fusion sub in the starter deck, then we get Vicious Claw, which is a equipped spell that is really, really bad. Honestly, don't bother with it, you're not going to touch it, it's just terrible. But then we get Dark Fusion, which is the bread and butter of the hero deck, the evil hero deck, and it makes the evil hero monster not targetable by opponent's traps, spells, or card effects. And it's not just evil heroes, you can summon Purgatorio with it. So you can do some invoke shenanigans if you want to play a very core focused version of the deck. But then we have Inferno Wing, which is the Flame Wingman version of the evil heroes, and it does piercing damage in defense mode, and does half the attack and defense damage when it destroys a monster, which is really weird because, you know, Flame Wingman doesn't, right? So this card is getting nerfed for no reason, because it's literally the same card pretty much, apart from the piercing that with 21 attack doesn't really matter too much. Then we get Basinatrix, cool. Another Visago, great. Another Vicious Claw, okay. 2nd Dark Fusion, pretty cool, it's fine. Then we get Wild Cyclone, our Avian plus Basinatrix, no, plus Wild Heart. And he's basically an Armades, right? Which is fine. And he is a Trunade Heavy Storm on the back row when he does damage, but he's very weak, so you want to use a skill or a field spell to power him up to get more attack point damage on, which you're not really going to be doing. So, and then we have the Sparkman Alternate Art, we have another Inferno Wing, Vicious Claw, Dark Fusion, and then it goes on and on until the end. So we're getting 3 of everything pretty much, apart from the vanilla heroes, which I assume will get more copies when he comes to the gate. Because otherwise this makes no sense, and I thought they put 1 of each in the starter deck, and then put 2 of each in the level ups, and we wouldn't get Visago. But we're getting Visago, so but then we move to where we can kind of save Supreme King the skills, and he has what I think is the most comprehensive character-only skills, which is really good, right? So first we'll get the star deck skill, the Malicious Hero, which gives you 2 copies of Edge, 1 Dark Fusion, and a Malicious Fiend. So if you don't buy the structure deck, you can then play this, but really, if you're playing Evil Heroes, you're getting the structure deck, you're getting 3 Stratos, you're playing it that way because that's the only way to play it. This is fine. It's not the best skill in the world, but if you're a free-to-play player, then sure, why not? He also has Allured by Darkness, so that's kind of cool. You can play Thunder Dragons with him because we have the skill with this card, and if they gave us this in the selection box or in the structure deck, that'd have been pretty insane. It would have been a mandatory go into, but they didn't. Beatdown, of course, just makes sense-ish. Cool. Dark Fusion, though, is a recycle for a poly, and it's twice per duel, but you can only play E-heroes or evil heroes, which is, it makes sense, right? But it's a very rough restriction for the lightest skill he has in terms of like bouncing things back. Because then we have Domination of Darkness, which is another very cool skill that you reveal one evil hero fusion in your extra deck and send all fusion materials on it to the graveyard from outside your deck. So you can just run the Inferno Wing or whatever, and then send an Avian Bacintrix from outside your deck to the graveyard. Then you would draw into a Dark Calling, use it, summon another monster, and then that would make a ton of sense, right? But it's a once per turn, twice per duel thing, and you have to send a different fusion each time, which is fair enough, right? But then you look at the restrictions, and it's you have to have 10 or more evil heroes, Dark Calling, or Dark Fusion in your deck, and you can't have any other monsters and heroes. So you can run, you can run Element heroes and Vision heroes and Mars heroes, but you can't run an extra deck that doesn't have anything except evil heroes. So it makes sense, right? For an anime-focused skill, this makes sense, but it's just so restrictive, and that's where like Supreme King Jaden's stuff really kind of comes down to, is they've been a little bit too restrictive on these skills for the card pool, right? If this was any other archetype, then sure, but evil heroes aren't that good. So this doesn't make sense. Evil Change is the onomata play, basically. Return evil hero to your hand to the deck, to then get an evil hero or a Dark Fusion, which is fine. And this is less restrictive because it requires Fiends in your deck, which is kind of like the Jack skill, which is fine. It makes sense, right? Onomata play is seeing a ton of abuse right now, and they've had to nerf it, so they're gonna, going forward, try and make the skills at least a bit balanced, and that's fair enough. Evil Reincarnation, your way to kind of revive your Malicious Edge, your Dark Guy, I think, when we get anything that's nerfed. It's terrible, right? All these skills that rely on a monster being destroyed by battle are terrible, because you want a skill to be live whenever you want it to be. And this is very reliant on your opponent doing things, and then you bouncing a card back, and it's a lot of resources to get back a fusion that doesn't really do, or not even a fusion at the moment, a level 6 Fiend that doesn't really do much aside from piercing. So, not the best in the world. Remains of the Heroes as well is equally as bad. It's a Call of the Magician Girls, not very good. Ignore it. Reversed Evil level 6 again is kind of similar. Among the Monsters Among Us reference, there we go, they've kind of got it in. The Supreme King is sus. Play level 6 evil hero that left your field after a fusion summon, so what is that, right? Is that literally just Inferno Wing? Like, that's Inferno Wing, right? That's level 6, yeah, it's Inferno Wing, and that's what, no, it's just Inferno Wing. So you just bring back Inferno Wing. Okay. Maybe as we get more evil heroes, this makes more sense, but right now, for Inferno Wing, no. This, however, is probably the best skill they have right now, and it's an essay. Look how long this skill text is. It's ridiculous. Discard an evil hero to then either add a Dark Fusion or a Dark Calling from your deck to your hand, or put a Necrom in your graveyard. Which we're not getting, right? There's no mini box to support this to give us an extra copy of this. We're just putting it in the graveyard. And it's a once per duel and twice per duel thing. But you can only do the Necrom once. You can't do Necrom both times. You have to do Necrom once and then a Dark Fusion or a Dark Calling the second time. So this gets around you having multiple copies of the structure deck, right? Because you want multiple Dark Callings, so this skill kind of lets you search it out whenever you want, which is, fair enough. But again, it has that restriction of pretty much being evil hero focused with elemental heroes as well. But your extra deck can't be anything apart from heroes, apart from evil heroes, so, well, no, fusion monsters, sorry. And then, yeah, and requires you to have 10 or more evil hero stuff, which you will be playing, what, 3 Dark Calling, 2 Dark Fusion, which is 5. You then want some, a Malicious Edge, that's 6 or 7. The general guy, that's like, what, 8, 9, 10. So you can do it, but is it really worthwhile? I'm not too sure. Then we have a anime skill, like a very much an anime reference skill, Supreme King Followers, which is very cool. Gives you a Skull Knight in your extra deck, which is, you know, cool for no reason. And then puts all of his minions as a random chance to draw. But it doesn't say from outside your deck. So this might mean you need to own the cards in your deck to draw them. Which would make sense, right? Because, you know, you're not putting Demise in if you can't summon Demise. If you don't have the ritual spell, you're not playing it. And you're not leaving it to chance to draw it. It's a fun skill, right? Like a fun skill in terms of reference. But in terms of playability, it's actually the worst one here. Straight up. Supreme King's Castle Revelation, though, is where things people thought would get kind of crazy. Because you can reveal a poly, or a fusion, which could be your dark fusion, to then play Supreme King's Castle from outside your deck. Which then it gives Invoked a very, very big buff, assuming we had a Dusted Gold, because a Dusted Gold would then search out the Dark Fusion, which you could then reveal, to then put this out, which then would allow you to go into a Purgo Trio, which then when it attacks, you could buff it with Alistar and then buff it with with this to send a fusion in the graveyard to then give it 1600 tower points, which is kind of crazy, and you could have a, you know, a even bigger OTK machine, and that's how people were thinking that Evil Heroes would be played, with Invoked. So honestly, thank you Konami for not giving us Dusted Gold, for making this a little bit less consistent, and that is it. He has Ultimate Fusion as well, which is a event reward, which I assume will be that panel at the bottom of the event that's kind of blank. That's where you get this, I think. Or they've messed up and they're waiting till next event to give it to us, which would make no sense. But given the EX, you know, the EX stages have the Super Polymat sleeves, this would make a ton of sense. So overall, his skills are pretty good, right? If you take them in context, they're pretty good. If you kind of remove the Evil Heroes, you know, like the actual archetype, they're very good skills. But Evil Heroes, as they are right now, they suck. And the support they're missing would make them really good, not like broken, but really good. And Konami have not given us a mini box. And we're not getting a mini box for another 10 days plus at minimum. And I'll talk about that tomorrow probably, because that's a whole thing of itself that could like kind of change the way Duel Links works if, you know, 5-head copium theories are believed. But yeah. Let me know down below what you think of Supreme King and Duel Links. I think the majority of people are going to be a bit disappointed, which is fair enough. They've made him a pay-to-win a pay-to-play character by locking his cards in an EX deck, which I think is the most scummy move possible. In a mini box, it would have been accessible to free-to-play. Here, it's not. Yeah, hot take of the day done. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next Duel Links video. See you then.